Perfect. So I'm very, very happy to have two presenters with us today. So our first presenter is Jodi Steele, and Jodi has a kinesiology degree and a physiotherapy degree from McMaster University. She co-developed an oncology rehabilitation program called Cancer Rehab, the Next Step. In 2005, her husband joined her, and together they founded Cancer Rehab Inc, Canada's first not-for-profit cancer rehabilitation center. Presently, Jodi has teamed up with Embrodia Academy to develop online courses for healthcare professionals and a mobile app for people with cancer. And so we also have today with us Celeste Turner. So Celeste is a queer and genderqueer individual who lives in and works in the Niagara region in Ontario. So working as the LGBTQ2 Support Coordinator for the Niagara Falls Community Health Center and volunteering as the chair of the board of directors for OUTniagara, Celeste is active and dedicated to supporting Niagara's 2 LGBTQIA+ community. And in 2019, Celeste was the recipient of a YMCA Peace Medal for their efforts to Niagara's sexual and gender diverse community. Celeste is also a certified personal trainer as well. So I'm very pleased to have our two speakers with us for today, and I'm happy to pass it over to you guys for our presentation.
Okay, Celeste, you're up.
Yeah, thanks so much. So I'm going to start things off with the LGBTQ2 lens, and then I'm going to shift over to Jodi for some exciting advances in exercise. So exercising while LGBTQ2+, why is this important to talk about? I have some information about why it's important to talk about, but I think some of the softer side or the less spoken side of it is that this isn't always really prevalent. It can be awkward to bring up. Someone that you're working with might not realize or think about the other challenges that LGBTQ2+ folks might face in regards to accessing exercise or accessing wellness. There are certain barriers that queer and trans folks experience when accessing any service, really, that we know that cisgender and heterosexual folks don't ever really have to think about, and that doesn't really make them bad people. But if you haven't had to think about it, you haven't had to think about it, right? So here we are to chat about it. So on this first slide, I have some information. This is from the Ontario Health Equity Impact Assessment, which came out in January of 2020, specific to LGBTQ2 populations. And so they list here some of the specific health challenges faced by LGBTQ2 folks. And I am going to acknowledge that these aren't pretty statistics. These aren't nice to look at. This isn't good news. And there are mentions of suicide and mental health on this slide. And so if anything does leave you feeling unwell after you hear this information, then I do encourage you to reach out to someone in your support network or support that you have available to be able to discuss that and take that further. So the Ontario Health Equity Impact Assessment reports that LGBTQ2 youth are 2 to 3 times more likely to attempt suicide than their heterosexual and cisgender peers. One Ontario-based study found that 47% of trans folks ages 16 to 24 had considered suicide recently, and 19% had attempted in the past year. Racialized LGBTQ2 individuals have mental health needs nearly 5% higher compared to non-racialized in our society as white LGBTQ2 people, and 16% higher compared to cisgender, heterosexual, non-racialized or white people. And we know that there's a high burden of mental and emotional distress, which has been associated with higher rates of coping behaviors such as tobacco, alcohol, and drug use, all of which are more prominently seen in LGBTQ2 communities. And that's a really important part is that first sentence of that point, is there's a high burden of mental and emotional distress. Same when we look at the top paragraph again, it says, as a result of social stigma and discrimination, right? And so there are challenges that LGBTQ2 communities face that we know that cis hetero folks don't face. And that directly impacts one's health and wellness. And again, is why this is so important to talk about and important that we're leveraging every opportunity possible to keep you as healthy and well as possible. And I just will mention too that the sources for the information that I share have the hyperlinks right along the bottom there to go right to the source if you want to read more. We can go to the next slide, Jodi. Thanks, you read my mind. So a little bit further and more specific about exercise. This information is from the Trans Pulse project, I believe, from 2014. And when I was doing research about this is like the most recent information I can find, which is wild because 2014, surprisingly, was actually like a while ago now, right? It feels like yesterday and a lifetime ago all at the same time. And so, I mean, there's a whole other conversation we could have around data collection and the importance of that. But the Trans Pulse project in 2014 found that 44% of trans Ontarians had actually avoided going to a gym because of being trans out of fear of discrimination, harassment in these spaces. We know that often physical fitness programs require trans inclusion policies and staff training, gender neutral or private changing facilities, and perhaps even trans specific programs to ensure that trans folks have access to the facilities they need to maintain health and well-being. So as necessary as those things are, we know that we don't find those in every environment of a gym or a studio or whatever other terminology. On the right here is a table of all the different places and what percentages of folks had reported them. You can see that gyms actually is the second highest, second only to public washrooms. We can go to the next slide, Jodi. And so here's some more specific information about exercise. This is from Rainbow Health Ontario's LGBTQ People in Exercise, and this is from 2015. So also kind of recent, kind of not. We definitely need more data, but they reported that according to lesbian health advocate, Dr. Kate O'Hanlon, healthy eating and exercise reduce the chance of cancer, heart attack, and stroke, even when weight remains the same, which I think is really important. I'm glad that that's mentioned. Regular exercise has been shown to improve mental health, reduce stress, anxiety, and depression, and improve self-esteem. Regular exercise improves quality of life in older people by strengthening bones, heart, and lungs, lowering blood pressure, increasing energy, improving balance, sleep, and mood, and reducing the risk of diabetes. I often think, like, right, if we could put all of the things exercise does in a pill, we'd be bajillionaires. Like, we would sell so many, right? But yeah, exercise is amazing. And the last piece, the Public Health Agency of Canada recommends that all adults undertake 2.5 hours of activity a week to achieve health benefits, LGBTQ2S or not. Thanks, Jodi. So some recommendations, because I talked about in the beginning how there are some barriers that LGBTQ2 plus folks face in accessing exercise. So number one is that exercise often can be done without making a lot of assumptions about your home environment. It can be done in the safety and comfort of your home. A lot of exercises can be completed at home with minimal equipment. I know Jodi is the queen of this. Jodi has a solution and a modification for every exercise. And there's even, you know, a water bottle here. You might think, oh yeah, to drink because you're thirsty while you exercise. But actually, right, a water bottle is like it's just over a pound, right? Like a mil, yeah, 400, 500 mils. Yeah, just over a pound is a little water bottle. For example, that you could use in some kind of resistance capacity. And there's all kinds of other, you know, exercise videos and things you can access on YouTube that are free if you have access to something with a screen and an internet connection, which if you're here, hopefully that continues, that you have access to something with a screen and an internet connection. And one kind of positive thing with COVID is the ability to do things virtually, including exercise classes, that those are available. And often, you know, you could follow along and not even really have to put your camera on if you weren't feeling it or not wanting to. But that being said, and it's kind of a bit of a questionable almost recommendation, be like, just hide in the safety of your home, because we talked about avoiding spaces. And so I know that doesn't fit for everyone, but it certainly can be a solution for some or for some times. You can go next, Jodi. Another one, if you are going to go to a physical establishment, is to do your research. So does this business have a website? Do they have policies and statements around diversity, equity, inclusion? What do their reviews say? And like, reviews happen in multiple places, right? They happen on social media, they happen on Google, like there are multiple places that you can check reviews for businesses. Do you know what their bathroom or change room situation is like? Would you be open to anonymously calling them and asking those kinds of questions and seeing what kind of responses you get, right? How receptive someone is even to that question could tell you a lot about how potentially inclusive somewhere is going to be. check in with local LGBTQ2 plus groups, centers, etc. for recommendations and safe business directories. So I can speak to you in Niagara, for example. We have an organization called OUTniagara that I volunteer with, and OUTniagara has a business and service directory right on their website. The only way they go on that website is by third-party referrals. So it's word of mouth cataloged for safety on the internet. And word of mouth. So do you know anyone who goes to this facility? Do you know anyone who's ever been to this facility? And that, to me and to others that I know, is far more meaningful than a rainbow sticker ever is going to be. We know that there are many well-intentioned and placed rainbow stickers in all kinds of businesses and environments. And as good as the intention might be in putting it up, sometimes the action doesn't follow through, unfortunately. And so, you know, who do you know, who can you check in with to vouch for a place and their safety? And the last piece that I have to talk about really today is finding or creating, if it doesn't exist, community around this. So are there local groups and resources in Niagara? I know we have Niagara Regional Gay Men's Group, and they have like a walking night once a week, and that's exercise, and they go as a group. And you know, in these local groups and resources, do they have exercise groups? And if they don't, are there enough people that want to start it? You're probably not the only person in that whole entire group who would like to get moving a little bit more. And then even see if there are specific LGBTQ2 plus specific games and sports leagues. And I'll be honest, this is far more common in bigger cities. I stole some logos and put them on here for you. Steel City Inclusive Softball Association, that's in Hamilton. Out and Out is like an outdoors and adventure events organization. I'm probably not even doing them justice. Based in Toronto, but they do events really like across Ontario. This is a little insert. I used to run this Rainbow Flow Yoga before the pandemic. That was just, yoga is yoga. It's the same poses. It's not any different for LGBTQ2 plus folks. The difference is in the environment. The difference is in the safety and knowing that, you know, folks aren't going to come in and I'm going to go, all right, ladies, and just assume everyone's gender or whatever, right? And it's those pieces that you mentioned on the last slide with intention that create safer spaces for LGBTQ2 plus folks to be able to exercise and to access that and have equity in accessing that, and ultimately increasing our health and wellness as much as we possibly can.
Awesome. Oh, that means I have to take over, but you're going to help me, Celeste, because they are very good at this, and I fear my calculator may not be working. But don't be scared, because if you think, oh my gosh, she's going to make me do math, we will help you. What we wanted to introduce a new maximum heart rate, because this is fairly new in the literature. You might have heard before, like 220 minus your age, 220 minus your age. That's been pretty popular for quite a few decades now. But we're trying to tweak it and change it to be a little bit more specific and better for people, especially for those who may have had, or older people. And older, you know what they say older is? Celeste, 40. Anyway, so individuals, I know, right? So individuals over 40, this is a more accurate formula, as well as if you have maybe some other comorbidities. And what I mean by that is cancer, diabetes, anything like this. This might be a better accurate formula. If you do the formula 220 minus your age, and you do this one, it might be very, very close what we're teaching you, but I just would like to bring it to the forefront to say, this is the new improved. Talk to me in 10 years and they're going to have another one, but this is the one that's the going rate. So what it really is it's going to be 208 minus, and this is where people who are scared of math, you make brackets, and then you're going to times 0.7 by your age. And that makes it more accurate. So here is Jennifer, and Jennifer is 44. So if you got it, everyone has a cell phone, I'm pretty sure. If not, I'm old school. Look, I have a calculator. People don't even know, my kids don't even know what this is. Okay, anyway, so the calculator, right? So 208, and do this too, Celeste, in case I mess up. Yeah. Oh my gosh, I don't have brackets on this thing. Okay, anyway. 0.7 times 44 would be 31, and then you would do 208 minus 31 if you wanted to do it backwards, right? What do you get, Celeste?
Oh, I would do my own age.
Well, I get 177. Hopefully that's close. And the key with, and really for this slide, when you put it into is that right? If you put it into your cell phone, you'll get like a decimal point. And just to be aware that we can't do, if we were taking our heart rate at our throat or on our wrist, we can't get a decimal point. So if it's under 4, you'd round down. And if it's over 5, you round up. A lot of people have Fitbits, and that will do this for you. And I'll tell you, and I'm not, I don't get any money from Fitbit or Garmin, they're all the same, but they're nice to have because this formula we're going to teach you you'll be able to keep glancing down and see if you're exercising in the zone. And that's really key for 2 pieces. One, for cancer. There is a lot of research that supports people with a diagnosis with cancer if they exercise in a moderate intensity, and that's sitting here right now, 60 to 80%. We're going to show you how to do that. If you exercise in a moderate intensity, there's some fantastic things that can happen. You can have less fatigue, decreased symptoms from your treatments. You can, the 2 that really resonate with me are decreased chance of a reoccurrence of cancer, and secondly, increased survival rates. Now, it's not for all cancers, it's for the big ones, because the research, the money goes to breast and lung and colon, but we can extrapolate that really if this is happening in the research with the big cancers, I think we can kind of say that it's probably going to happen no matter what kind of cancer you have. Okay, so then once you got your max heart rate, then you've got to try to get 60 to 80%. And we always give a range because nobody can go on the treadmill. I don't know, can you do that, Celeste? Go on the treadmill and just sit exactly 120 beats? It's impossible. your Fitbit will go, no. So you want to be in a range, and the range is from the literature like I spoke about, but it's also good because if you're new to exercise, you want to start in the lower range at 60% and work your way up to working harder as you become more fit. And then the thing that your body does as you become more fit, you can work harder and you won't even get into that range. You're getting fitter and fitter, so your heart is more efficient, and you might be on that treadmill at level 5 and your heart rate's just sitting at the 60%. You get more fit. Now your heart rate's still the 60% and you're sitting at level 8. So you've gotten fitter. So it does that too. But for all intents and purposes, let's make a nice range. So if Jim has a max heart rate of 170, his lower range or lower side would be 60. So in your calculator, you would put 170 times 0.6. And hopefully this is right. So he would be wanting a goal for his Fitbit, Garmin, or to take his pulse would be to be at least at 102 beats per minute. If Jim has cancer, then we really want to make sure he gets into that zone. So I always tell the people, walking is fine. All those things are fine, but you want to push yourself that little bit higher to get in the zone instead of just being physically active. Not that that's bad. I mean, physical activity is great. I had a client that once time said, I asked her what they did for exercise, and they said they cleaned their bird cage. I go, you know what? That's fine if that works. But for cancer, the great benefits of survival and decreased reoccurrence, we want to try to get you in the 60 to 80% range. Okay, stop babbling, Jodi. Let's try some. I wonder if this is recording our little picture. I'm moving us over here. How about that? Does that look really weird? Just so we can see, I maybe should have done that 10 slides ago. Sorry, Celeste. So let's just try a few. So if you've got your calculator out, Joanne's got a max heart rate of 186 and they want to work at 70%. So pop that in your phone and see if you get 130 beats. We're going to do your pulse or your heart rate in a second, but just check mine and see how it's 130.2. We'd round down to 130. Okay. Same with Timothy's. They might want to work at 60, the lower end. This could be a possibility, a new diagnosis of cancer, just had radiation, not feeling too good, working in the lower level. So that's why we find the 50 or the 60. And then Ashley, you can try that one as well. And they want to work more at 50%. They've been instructed perhaps by the doctor. They may have something going on with their heart. And the doctor said, I only want them to be working at a lower level. And then that you would say, oh, I know how to do that now. And you would work at 50% of your max heart rate. All right. Oh, now I gotta move us back. This is fun. Look at Nero. Come on over here with me, Celeste. Okay, let's try yourself. Okay, do you mind telling us how old you are, Celeste? Is that too? You can do.
No, I don't mind. I
Okay.
keep saying 30 is the new 20, but I'm 28.
28. Okay. So Celeste is going to do her. I'm 47. We're going to try our own. So I'm going to pause for a second and let you try to actually put your age in here. So if you're using, I should have had like a calculator pop up, but if you're using your phone, you can put a bracket in there. Is that correct? Yes. 208.
On an iPhone, if you turn it sideways,
Oh,
not
nice.
good, of course, but normally it should give you a bigger. Oh, because it's my screen's locked.
Oh,
hang on,
unlock that.
redo.
Oh, mine does that
So
too,
then it
fancy
should-
pants.
Yeah, then now I know it's hard to see, but then now you have brackets and more
Oh.
options on your phone.
Oh my gosh, I just learned something on this webinar. I have an Android. My Android does it too. I can't
Oh,
get it.
cool. Okay.
Yes. Oh, look at us. We're working. Okay, so let's do this together. 208. Oh, now just my screen just went out. 208 minus bracket 0.7 times, put your age in. I'm going to put 47 in. End of bracket. So the second bracket equals. You should get a number that's realistic. It should be under 220 because we don't really have heart rates that are beyond that, right? Shouldn't. Even children, they got little fast little hearts, but they should be not under 220. So I'm at 175. Now I'm going to put times 0.6. And now I'm going to write this on paper. My lower level of exercise for me, what are you, Celeste, for your lower level?
My heart rate would be 112.
You're 112, and that makes sense. I'm 105 because I'm older, right? And this is why we do it, because Celeste is 28, I'm 47. If we both had cancer, or even if we didn't, we shouldn't be working at the same. I'm old. No, just joking. I'm just joking. But you know what I mean? Like, it shouldn't be this someone blanket statement, everybody work at a certain thing. It does have to go with your age. So I'm 105 for my lower limit. And Celeste, what were you again? 112. Let's do our upper limit. So you put your max heart rate back in there. So again, mine was 175 and I'm going to times it by 0.8. So my upper limit is 140. What's yours, Celeste?
151.
Whoa, 151. And those are, I'm just joking. Those are beats per minute. So again, if you have a Garmin or a watch or something, then it just comes, yours just comes right up, right, Celeste? When you work out, it'll just say you are 120 or something, right? Yeah, so it would, for them, it would say you're in the zone. If you have to do it by your pulse, you usually don't take it for a full minute, but that's another whole presentation if you are wanting to learn how to take your pulse. Probably shouldn't be done with the trainer. But let's talk just about a few things that you can do at home if, or you can do at the gym if you wanted to get the most bang for your buck. And this is interval training. I'm a big fan of interval training. And this is when you do alternating bouts of short, vigorous activity. And then you follow it by longer bouts of less stressful. And this is really good if you've been unwell or if you've had chemo surgery. Sometimes you can't jump on a treadmill and go on there for 30 minutes because you just can't do that. I mean, you're exhausted, you're dehydrated, like there's a plethora of reasons, right? But interval training and our Wellspring program, we start at 3 minutes. So we go, well, now we're Zoom because of COVID. So now we're marching and doing jumping jacks for about 3 minutes. Everybody's heart rate gets into the zone. And then we take a break and we do something else. And then we alternate that between cardio and then why it's kind of trickery. When the client thinks they're relaxing, they're not doing the cardio piece, we may be doing bicep curl. And that's the resistance piece. They feel like they're getting a bit of a break, but the heart rate is remaining in that moderate intensity zone the whole time. So interval training, that's one form of it where it goes back and forth, cardio, resistance, cardio, resistance. And it can be small intervals per me. And we love the research I've done has been in cancer and interval training, but we also know from the research that there's some great stuff about improving your heart muscle and your cardiovascular endurance. And if weight was a goal of yours, we do know that interval training can have some effect on that. You know what I should have done, Celeste, is look to see if interval training had something with mental health issues, because I know exercise certainly does, but I'm not really sure what form of exercise is the best. I don't know.
I never thought about that either.
Yeah, is it more
Let me
cardio?
know.
Yeah, I got some students. We'll get them on that and find what the research says.
Perfect.
So if, again, this is kind of a word you might have heard out there, is HIIT training, and HIIT training is interval training, and it stands for high intensive interval training. And that just means that the intervals are more of an intense workout. So your heart rate would be at that higher end of your target. So you know how we gave you the 80%, you would be working in those little intervals much harder for harder bursts, and then resting a little bit. And you may think, woo, that's not for me. I don't want to work really hard. And you know, people are fearful that they'll hurt themselves. But there's actually been a lot of studies on HIIT training for all age groups. And they found a lot of benefit in the older adult and person older than 50. And the reason I bring this up in a Wellspring cancer lecture is the average age of a lot of people that have cancer, it depends on the cancer, but breast cancer, for example, the average age is 65. So we do have a lot of older adults that have a diagnosis of cancer. That doesn't mean that we don't have younger people too, but there is research that is safe to do this HIIT training. Okay. So let's just give you one first thing to make sure you have an idea. If you are exercising and you just don't like this heart rate thing and you think, it's too much for me, what else can I do? Well, one time tested into true scale that you can use is called the rate of perceived exertion. So what we ask people is to, from a scale from 0 to 10, 0 being completely at rest, like you're sleeping, and 10 being the hardest race you've ever run and you can only last a few seconds, choose what you are exercising at this exact moment. So maybe you're going for a walk, or maybe you're on the treadmill, or whatever you choose. And some people are like, I don't know. It's actually very accurate to just say what comes to your mind, where you think, using these number and word cues. People are actually very accurate with their heart rate. So if they say I'm a 4, it's quite likely that they're in about 50% of their heart rate. It's amazing how this works. So don't overthink it. But find your place where it makes sense to you that I'm a 3. Okay, I'm doing the warm up. I'm a 3. I'm a 4. When you start doing your interval training or your workout, we want you to be between 4 and 6. So sort of hard to like hard. So I guess it's a talk test, right? So if you can hold a conversation, you're probably under a 3. If you are, is that right? Like, and if you could kind of just, I don't want to use the word short of breath. That's not right. Like, I guess if you're a little puffed or a little.
Yeah, a little winded.
And you can't really string together a whole conversation, then you're probably in the moderate intensity. Again, if you use all these pieces like the talk test, the rate of perceived exertion, and the target heart rate, you have a really good idea of where you should be for safety and also for getting the maximum benefits for your cancer treatment. All right, so things to just be, I'm moving us around again, things to just be aware of when you start to exercise. And obviously, if you have any form of dizziness, chest pain, feeling more tired, or any kind of anxiety, definitely stop what you're doing, perhaps call 911, or at least make sure you are with somebody that can monitor your symptoms. Unusual aches and pains are a tough one in our cancer group because there is a lot of pain associated with cancer. So this is pain and aches that is different from what you experience with your cancer pain. So I wanted to just put together two little workouts. We should do them. No, just joking. I don't think we can. But it would have been fun, eh? That's back in the day. But this is one, if you can follow along, if this makes sense. This is if you were going to go out for a walk. Okay, you have no equipment, you don't want to be in the gym, you don't want to be in your house. So what you would do is you would walk at a slower pace to warm up for at least 5 to 7 minutes. So you might make it around the block. I don't know, it depends how big your block is. And after that 7 minutes has gone by, you're going to start the intervals. So you're going to walk fast and your heart rate is going to rise into the higher level of your target. So closer to the 80%. For 15 minutes or 15 seconds. Whoa, 15 minutes, that'd be too long. And then after 15 seconds, you're going to keep walking. You don't stop and just stand there. You're going to keep walking, which is called the rest interval, but it's more of a slow walk for 90 seconds. Your heart rate may come down, but we don't want it to come down out of the zone, right? So it shouldn't come right down to resting. It should just come out of the zone. And then just when you've cut your breath and you're feeling good, you're going to do another 15 seconds. So it goes back and forth, and you're going to repeat it 6 times, which is going to be around 6 minutes, plus your 7-minute workout, which is a warm up, which is 13 minutes. And then you are going to cool down by maybe, walking slowly again for 5 minutes, or maybe you could do some gentle side steps or something kind of different for your muscles for a workout under 20 minutes, but completely effective and very helpful for many things. And it's quickety quick, it's outside, costs no equipment. You can also do it on a treadmill, or you can run around your house. You can march on the spot. We've gotten very creative now with Zoom of different fun, put on them tunes and just rock it out and dance or whatever. If you're a person,
your house in one direction, make sure you turn around after the 3rd interval.
Yeah. Good point.
I'm like, oh, now I have a half-hour walk back.
Good point. Either walk in a circle or make sure you walk out and come back in. You got it. Now, if you like the idea of lifting weights, like Celeste said, you don't have to have all this equipment that you've ordered off Amazon. You can have soup cans. People are very creative. Sand and water bottles, rocks and water bottles make it heavier, all kinds of stuff. But just remember that you need to be safe when you're working with weights for many reasons. So make sure that your doctor has said that you are allowed to do that and that you're comfortable with the exercises you're performing. But it does have some great things happening. You may not see a change on your scale because your muscles will be increasing, and muscle weighs more than fat, but you may see a difference in the way your clothes fit or how you feel because you've lost some fat. So there won't be a change on the scale, but there will be a change in body composition. The other great thing about resistance training is we have great literature that supports lowering blood pressure and also increasing good high density lipids and cholesterol and lowering the bad ones. So we know that for sure, resistance training does that for sure. So what would an interval training resistance cardio, and this is very similar to to what we do at Wellspring, or what we did when we were live anyway. And so this would start out with a warm up again, 5 to 7 minutes walking around, get your heart rate up. And then you might want to start first with bicep curl. So you've got your dumbbells, or you've got and you watch a video on YouTube, there's millions of them you just put in Google bicep curl and there's all kinds that come up with form, and you're doing 10 reps. Then you immediately head into a cardio phase. So this could be walking, running, jogging on the spot for 3 minutes. Then your heart rate is definitely in the zone. And just as you're getting tired and say, oh, I've had enough of this, you're going to stop, and you might do what's called the shoulder press. Again, Google it to make sure you get the right form, but you're doing 10 reps of shoulder press. Just as you finish those 10 reps, you're like, oh, I'm feeling good. I'm ready. And you go again for another walk of 3 minutes. So see how it goes: resistance, cardio, resistance, cardio. And these can be any exercises that you like. These are just my favorites. Like I like quarter squats and I like calf raises, but if there's something you found on Google or something that or that or YouTube that really you're like, oh, that's really fun. Just be careful not to buy into too much of real extreme weightlifting or cross training or Olympic training. Not to say you can't do that, but that's pretty high level, right? So stick with more of everyday person. Is that right? I don't know. Again, if you join a program like Wellspring, our videos and everything are designed for beginners and for people with cancer. So they're very safe. And I'm sure you can get those kind of videos. Did you have anything to add there, Celeste? I've just been babbling on and on.
I think just always being confident about what you're doing. And if you don't know if you're doing it right, then you should ask someone. Or have someone check your form, or engage with someone who can support you with that. Because if you're not sure, you don't want to hurt yourself. And those movements, like Jodi mentioned, like Olympic lifting, powerlifting, I used to do that stuff, super fun, but also super complicated, right? If you think about even one move, there's like a snatch. So now I'm like squatting, deadlifting, up, clean, overhead, shoulder press, like all in a couple of seconds, right? And so
right.
There's nothing wrong with those. It takes time to have the skills in advance to put them together. So.
And a lot of things too, like if you join a program like Wellspring or another online, because mostly stuff's online right now, but even if you join for, 12 weeks or 10 weeks and get a flavor for it, then you'll have like all kinds of stuff in your trick bag to go on for the rest of your life and be a lifelong exerciser, because you'll learn so much. And you'll start from beginner exercises, but very quickly, as you become stronger, you can move and you can see different versions of stuff, and it becomes more fun. And then you can pick and choose. Like, I love seated row, but I can't stand deadlifts. So you can imagine what my workout looks like. But anyway, you know what I mean? You can play around with what you like, or in the case of if you've had surgery or part of your body's been affected, then maybe you need to go slower on that particular part when you first start exercising. But that could be a goal to get that arm or that leg back to how it was pre-cancer days. So there's lots. So reach out for help, watch videos, look for good sources. And I think that's about it. If there's anything else, how'd we do for time? I think we're okay. We have a few minutes now for questions. Please, please ask us anything.
Thank you so much,